We continue on. Well, I didn't count us down. I just started talking like a moron. I'm an idiot. And three, two, one. We continue on with our preview and predictions for a lot of college football teams staying in the ACC. We go to Dabo Sweeney and Clemson. Can the Tigers bounce back after a perceived down season? They've been one of college football's best for quite some time, throughout the 2010s, in fact. And is it going to get better in 2024? Well, we're going to talk about it. Will Mannis, Ralph Leary, my name is Bryce Koon on today's episode of The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in. My name is Bryce Koon alongside Will Mannis and Ralph Leary. We appreciate you tuning in wherever you might be. If it's on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well, and leave a comment. And if you're listening in many of our podcast feeds brought to you by the Believe Network, we appreciate you there as well. Well, fellas, college football season's right around the corner. ACC kickoff is underway. And we want to take a look at some of the ACC teams. Obviously, we've already talked about Florida State. Now we move on to the perceived top two teams in the conference. Then we move to that second team, that 1B, we might say. And the Clemson Tigers, by a lot of different writers, think that this is a make or break year for Clemson. And when you look at Dabo Sweeney trying to stay in kind of that upper echelon of college football, maybe not tier one, but tier two, 2024 is going to go a long way in kind of, I wouldn't say affecting his legacy, but what happens from here on out. I think that's kind of fair to say. So without further ado, we're going to walk through the schedule. Will, what you got?
Bryce, I hear that and I just laugh. I mean,
He's been so good. He's been so good.
He's won 9 or 10 games almost every year at a place that really never won. What they had a peak in the 80s, but other than that, they've really been nationally irrelevant, and he made them not only relevant, but he won national championships and played in a ton of them. So make or break. Come on. I mean, the dude's going to have a statue. He may get one before he retires. I mean, that's how good he's been. People lose their minds, and it's shocking to me.
They do. That's the ACC kickoff. That's what they do. All right. Let's rock and roll. Let's take a look at this schedule, fellas. We're going to go through this, and not the cleanest graphic, but that's what Clemson Sports has given us here. I think the big talk of this early part of the schedule, fellas, is your first 4 games. I'm just going to say this, and I'm not predicting it. I think they could go 2-2 in the first 4 games. And if App State's feeling frisky, they could go 1-3. If Clemson's 1-3 rolling into October, that's a problem. But I'm going to kick it off with game number 1. I think they lose to Georgia. I think Georgia's going to be very good this season. No surprise. Everyone knows it. I don't even know why they asked me to do this. I mean, it is what it is. So I think August 31st in Atlanta, I think Georgia wins that one. So any kind of early thoughts on that game there, Will?
I mean, yeah, it's Georgia. Everybody already knows where I stand. I don't know why they asked me to do this. So, I mean, it's Georgia. I mean, they're probably going to win the national championship this year again. They're an NFL team with college logos on their uniforms.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ralph, I don't think you have anything to pull up and show the camera.
Don't worry. You know where I stand at.
Troy almost beat Clemson a couple years ago, so but they're Ralph
Georgia logo here for right now, just temporarily. Okay.
I got
you. I think we can all agree Georgia's probably the preliminary number 1 team in the country this year, hands down. I think they're the best returning team in college football. And Clemson, they just go off of what they have on their team and who they recruit. They forget the transfer portal. They don't have one. They don't bring in transfers. We don't bring in transfers at Clemson. So I think they start off 0-1. Georgia is too good. I think Carson Beck is on a tear this year. I think he'll light the scoreboard up this year. I think they're a powerhouse, obviously, but they're different this year. I think.
No, they're different. So we all have Clemson starting 0-1. And guys, let's kind of work our way all the way up to that October 5th date against Florida State. I know I joked about it. I mean, App State is kind of the giant slayers when you think about college football. And we've talked about, I mean, Ralph, I remember the episode that we did way back, the Group of 5 dark horse. App State, if they want to be that Group of 5 dark horse to receive that playoff bid, here's your chance to notch that marquee win. But I do have Clemson rolling into Florida State 3-1. I think that they get their feet from underneath them after playing that kind of pseudo. I mean, this is about as non-neutral site as you can get playing a neutral site game. Georgia and Clemson, like you're both within 3.5 hours of Atlanta, so it's kind of different. But I got Clemson going 3-1 heading into Florida State. Will, we'll go back to you here. Do you echo that sentiment? And is there a game that you're kind of watching? Because NC State to me is going to be a very interesting one. The Wolfpack, Dave Doran, Grayson McCall, that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. You say that's the game I'm looking at too. You say Grayson McCall, and the name that I'm going to say, he plays on that defensive line. He's a freak. Peter Woods. This Clemson front seven is insane. They lost a ton of talent as well to the NFL, but you look at the guys they have coming back, and you look at the sizes on these guys. I mean, I don't know how teams are going to run the ball against you. You got Peter Woods, like I said, 315 pounds. DeMonte Capehart, probably going to be the nose. He's 320 pounds. They've got another defensive tackle, Peyton Page. He's 315 pounds. How are you getting through there? And then if you're going to try to pass, they got TJ Parker coming off the edge. Team last year, 5.5 sacks. We've seen Grace McCall at Coastal Carolina run around and really make plays. I don't see him doing that, especially against this Clemson defense. Clemson gets him at home. I think Clemson's going to roll 3-1 right into Tallahassee.
I like it. And two other names just to mention there. TJ Parker is another one that a lot of people like. Barrett Carter at that weak side linebacker, and then Wade Woodaz too. I mean, you mentioned front seven, including those linebackers. This might be the best front seven on paper heading into 2024. Ralph, both of us have it 3-1. Are you going to go 3's a magic number here and stay with us?
Yeah, I'm staying with y'all this year. If this game like last year was for NC State was obviously if it was flipped again like it was last year, I might take NC State. We don't know how Grayson McCall is going to be. Obviously going into Power 4 now, going from Group of 5 to Power 4. It's a big jump for him. Is he going to be prepared? I don't know. But Clemson, their front seven is the best. I think Barrett Carter. I mean, I was waiting to actually say it when before you mentioned him. He's probably one of the hardest hitters in ACC. That dude he can lay you out. I mean, he has been a stud since he set foot on campus, and I think he's a preliminary second round pick. Even if he has a great year this year, he'll be a first round pick for linebacker. I think you're looking at a guy who's a terrific linebacker, and he's coached very well, and he learns well, and he produces great talent or great effort every game. So I'm going 3-1, rolling into old Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Real quick before we get to that one, this will probably be the only time we do this, but shout out to Stanford for doing something to continue to be in a power conference.
Yeah, because we're not talking about the Cardinal.
I mean, how did that happen?
I don't know.
How did they get to stay in a power conference, but Oregon State and Washington State don't?
Academics.
Hey, they matter to some people.
Hey, and don't forget they're great in baseball.
And golf.
We're not there.
The ACC golf is going to be
baseball content is not there, but hey, they're a good baseball team.
Right.
Hey, what it is. And there you go. All right, so we've all got them 3-1 rolling into Florida State. Now, look, if you have not already watched our Florida State episode that we released earlier this week, then you might be thinking, okay, fresh new ideas. No, we are going to stay the course because I don't want anybody jumping back and forth between comment sections saying you lied. So I'll start it off. I do think Florida State wins this game. So I've got them 3-2 heading into Wake Forest. We're not going to talk a lot about Wake Forest because no one wants to talk about Wake Forest. But Will, I know that you've already said it in the previous episode, but kind of, I believe you're taking Clemson to win this game.
Yeah, I am, and for the same reasons I just mentioned, I think their defense is too good. And I said it in the other episode, the Clemson offense has to be better. Has to be. I think bringing in Matt Luke was the coup of the college football offseason. Dabo Swinney going and getting him. I think it's going to be a new attitude with that offensive line. They're going to get nasty. They're going to run the ball. They ran the ball great last year, and I think they'll do it again. And I think the wide receiver room will be much improved to help out Cade Klubnik, who's been great, but it hasn't really translated on the scoreboard. It hasn't looked so great. So I think they'll be better. We know they can run the ball. They're going to play defense. That travels. Florida State's a good team. Tallahassee's going to be rocking, but I think that's the difference there. Clemson being able to run the ball and being able to shut down that offense. And I mean, they know DJU better than anybody. He was there.
Yeah.
Cade Klubnik ran him out of town. So give me Cade Klubnik head to head here again. To me, all signs point toward Clemson, even
All
on the
right.
road.
I've got them 3-2. Will's got them 4-1. And Ralph, I believe you were taking who in this one?
I'm taking Clemson. I think I took Clemson. With against when we were doing the Florida State one. I think that Klubnik's ready to go this year. I think this is the year we actually see him show up. Road game, no matter who it is. I think he's prepared. I think Dabo's basically just told him, look, man, this is your team. This is where you are. We're not moving from you. You got to take the reins and show up this year. And I think him and Phil Maffa, what a great duo that is in the backfield. And Phil Maffa, an absolute beast of a running back. And I think what they've done offensively, their offensive line just they stay the course. They're guys, they stick together. They're like 5 guys will play 2 or 3 years with each other. They get those bonds together, and that front seven's just too good. I think they take Florida State down, and I have them going 4-1.
Yeah, 4-1.
Quick numbers on Cade Klubnik here. If you don't think he's good, last year he completed 64% of his passes for 2,844 yards and 19 touchdowns. I don't care who you are, who you play. Those are good numbers. But we know the wide receiver room has been lacking.
Well, also
they've got to be better.
2 very good running backs last year, Will Shipley and Phil Maffa. So
they did.
Yeah.
But you got to think that receiver room can't be much worse. By October rolls around, they get to Tallahassee. I think they'll be clicking on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm. And you think too, when you look at this schedule, I mean, we're not going to pencil anything in. I've given them a win against Wake Forest. I think we're all in agreement there. They're going to beat Wake Forest up there in Demon Deacon land. That puts them for me at 5-1. And or I'm sorry, 5-2, and then you go into Virginia, which you're going to play Virginia at home. And guys, the fact that you're only playing when you get to the back half of the schedule and you're playing 4 out of your last 6 at home, I think it helps you because I'm going to roll into Virginia Tech. Okay, I think they beat Virginia. I think they beat Louisville, and I think they're going to roll into Blacksburg with what would that put them at? I'm sorry, guys, 7-2 record, 6-2 record. I think I'm somewhere wrong with that, but I think they roll into Virginia Tech with just 2 losses. I've got them losing to Georgia and Florida State there. How do you guys feel about Wake Forest, Virginia, Louisville? Right there, those 3 games. We'll start with you.
I think those are 3 wins. Seem pretty straightforward. I think Louisville. We talked a lot about Louisville. Jeff Brom, he's a great coach, but I think Clemson having home field advantage here is going to be the difference. But so I like Clemson to take all 3 of these.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with Will there. I don't think there's not many mishaps with Wake Forest this year. Virginia, the same thing. I think those 2 teams are not really at the par this year. What they've been in the past with Wake Forest having some pretty good years with Sam Hartman a few years ago. So I got them going. I have them 2 losses already. So that's 6-2.
6-2 going into Virginia Tech. Yeah. No,
I think
who's your 2 losses to though, Ralph? You're taking Florida State.
Sorry, I have them with 1 loss going into.
Okay. I just want to make sure because this is where I got to start writing this stuff down. So heading into Virginia Tech, they'll have played 8 games. A record recap. Both of these fellows have them 7-1 with just a loss to Georgia and going on quite the run. I've got them at 6-2 going into Virginia Tech, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now. I think that, and I've said this. I said this on previous shows. This is the game where you're going to get to see Blacksburg again full throttle. I think this is. I think this is going to be played for a spot. In Charlotte, and you can think whatever you want about yards per carry for a quarterback, but I do believe that Virginia Tech is a team that is going to benefit from their schedule. I think they are this year's Louisville in the terms of the hype and why they're getting it. They do have a good team and a lot of returning talent, but Brent Pry might have found something defensively there. When you dive deeper into the numbers of what he's been able to do there in his short time there, I think Virginia Tech wins, and I think this one has a chance to be like a slugfest, not a Frank Beamer 3-2 game, but I'm talking about like just a ugly 16-10 game. I'm taking the under right now in this game, by the way. I think Virginia Tech wins this one close. I've got them going 6-3 right after Virginia Tech. Will, your thoughts? Because this is a swing game. Like, this game could decide if you're in Charlotte or not.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm picking which I think it's got to be the upset, right? You got to think Clemson would be a favorite here, even on the road. I'm with you. I think this is, if I'm remembering Virginia Tech's schedule correctly, this is their biggest home game. They kind of have some sleepy home games before this one. And like you said, light schedule. So they'll probably come in 1, maybe 2 losses. Blacksburg is going to be rocking. It's going to be a hostile environment. And we've seen Clemson in the past go on the road in the ACC in hostile environments and stumble. Obviously, those are different teams years ago, but remember, Trevor Lawrence lost at Syracuse in the Carrier Dome to some bad Syracuse teams. Pete agrees. Making a second appearance tonight. But yeah, I'm taking the upset. I think the environment is going to get to them. They get through that first test at Florida State, but we've seen Clemson falter in the past, and I think this is on their schedule where it happens in 2024.
I'm not against that. I mean, I could see that. I think that when you look at this team heading into Virginia Tech, and Ralph, I want to kind of ask you this because Will was right. Like, Virginia Tech, you're going to play at Miami. If you win that game, this sets up to be, guys, when we've talked about this, Blacksburg, that when we were growing up, like this sets up to be a Frank Beamer version of Blacksburg. That place is going to be nuts. You could potentially have, I don't think you're going to have College Game Day, knowing what I know what's on the schedule. LSU, Alabama's that week, and Georgia, Ole Miss is that week. But your thoughts on this game? Does Clemson get past Virginia Tech here?
No, and Will and I were talking right before you got back, and I even said to him when he was saying that I got going 10-2 this year. It would or he said 11-1 at first, and I said, "Who's the one loss?" And he said Virginia Tech, and I was like, "You haven't beaten Georgia." I agree. I think Virginia Tech this year they're going to be a lot of fun. I really do think so. I think they're, like you said, Louisville of last year, pretty simple schedule to start the season off. Obviously you don't play really anyway until you go to at Miami, and if they're undefeated going into coming home and welcoming Clemson, like you said, Blacksburg is going to be rocking. Now CW is going to ruin the game and put it at 2:30, and we're all going to be pissed. But it's still going to be an absolute bloodbath there. I think, like you said, you're taking the under. I agree. I think I'm talking about 2 defensive fronts that are just going to go at it.
No, I agree.
They're going to cause havoc. I think Virginia Tech is a very senior-led team, I guess you'd say, a very veteran-led team with some crazy good talent that a lot of people don't know about yet. And Virginia Tech is a team to don't overlook the Hokies this year. The best game I remember, the last time we saw Blacksburg at full tilt would be the Ohio State game, when Ohio State came to town, and it was a great game. And Ohio State, obviously, Braxton Miller with the greatest spin move in history, broke off that long touchdown run. So, I'm excited for I'm excited for their season. I'm excited for Blacksburg, especially for Virginia Tech fans, and see what Blacksburg's going to be capable of this year.
Yeah, I like it. We roll through the back half of the schedule. I mean, I think they beat Pitt, because if you don't, then I don't know what you're doing. The Citadel.
Shut down your program if you lose to Pitt.
Please. The Citadel. Hey, look, I'm SoCon through and through. Shout out Carson Minton, fan of the program. He's the assistant director of marketing over at Citadel. But I think that Citadel gets a nice paycheck and heads back to the beautiful confines of Charleston, South Carolina.
We respect the troops.
Also, shout out to McCluskey, former Citadel.
Citadel football player, yeah. There you go. And then South Carolina, which, if Ralph, you mentioned this. If this was a home game, for South Carolina, I might be inclined. What would happen? But
not much this year.
No, this year I'm taking. So I'm going Clemson 9-3 with losses to Georgia, Florida State, and Virginia Tech. That's where I'm rolling. And how are you guys rolling, Will?
I'm with you. I think they win the last 3 games and they finish up 10-2. And the way that I've gone these first these last two episodes, they'll face Florida State in Charlotte, a rematch.
Ooh, yeah, could definitely be the case. Ralph, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think they win out. I don't think you have any problem with Pitt and Citadel. Obviously, South Carolina, last time you played them at home, they beat you 31-30. What a final stretch of the season for South Carolina that year. But yeah, I agree though. I don't think they're having any issues with South Carolina this year. It's a home game, different mentality for this Clemson team this year. It's not DJU that year, which is kind of was really a big question mark the whole entire season.
He was mid. He was mid. Let's just say
Yeah,
he was.
it was a big question mark the whole entire year. All year long. He was just a big question mark. Can he actually is he there? Is he not? And Clemson finished out the rest of the season, or actually the last two games. Sorry, but yeah, I think they finished. I have it 10-2. Yeah, I think this Clemson team will be playing in Charlotte at the end of the year. Now, who they play, I don't know, but they're going to be in Charlotte.
You hear it right there. These two guys have Clemson penciled in. You're going to have to wait to see if I'm going to have Clemson in Charlotte because I do have them having two conference losses to Florida State and Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech would be a prime candidate if they beat them head-to-head to potentially be there in Charlotte over top of them. But I've got them 9-3. These guys have them 10-2 apiece. And as we kind of round out this episode, guys, I mean, look, Clemson, the best way to describe them 2024, suffocating defense, and defense that I think is just going to be very hard to move the ball consistently on. But it's going to come down to, can they score? Can they score with some of the teams they're going to have to play? If they can, then I'm willing to go over 9 wins. BetOnline has this over-under total at 9.5, so that has me taking the under on Clemson this year. These two guys taking the over. But altogether, and I want to say, if this happens like this, or let's play my scenario. If you're 9-3 and maybe miss out on Charlotte, which I'm not saying you will or you won't, what's the temperature of this fan base? Maybe realistically, Will, you kind of scoffed at it earlier. They shouldn't be that mad, but Clemson's got to keep winning to be that brand that wants to move to the bigger conference. I don't know. Well, 9-3 with 2 conference losses, is that enough to really put pressure on Dabo Swinney to change his ways? Not for a change of coach, but really to kind of change his ways.
I mean, does 9-3 in the ACC get you in the playoff? I think that's the big question.
Yeah.
You have a loss to Georgia, so you're going to drop 2 conference games. Does that get you in the playoff? I think that's ultimately what will decide how people feel at the end of the season.
I mean, I have a legitimate question if the ACC runner-up is even going to get in the playoff, and I think that's a conversation. So I think if you lose to Georgia, you better lose to the ACC champion and the ACC runner-up, and they better be by close margins. But I'll say this too, like when you go back and look at this schedule real quick, fellas, what did I just outline in my 9-3 season? You beat the teams you should, and you lost the teams that you needed to beat. I mean, that's kind of mine.
Yeah.
Georgia, Florida State, and Virginia Tech are the 3 teams that you need to beat to make the playoff or really to solidify a spot in Charlotte. And I don't know. I feel like that's this kind of season Clemson could have here in 2024. Ralph, any thoughts to kind of round this one out?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of y'all's statements. I mean, I don't think a 3-loss team is going to, from the ACC, is making the playoff no matter what. I don't know who they are. I don't care who they are, who they lost to. I don't think 3 losses is going to cut it for them.
Yeah.
But like you said, though, if you're Clemson and you have those 3 losses, you better hope it's a close one to Georgia and 2 very close ones to do the conference champion and conference runner-up. That'd be your only way for a 3-loss team to sneak in there. I mean, seriously, I'm not talking about like a 2-touchdown loss of Georgia. I'm talking about a 3.1-point loss of Georgia that you kept it close and you fought till the very end.
Yeah. So, and then you got to hope Georgia runs the table and maybe goes undefeated.
Yeah, if Georgia runs the table and goes undefeated and you lost by 3 points in a neutral site that really low-key is not a neutral site because Georgia basically runs that stadium now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, never mind. Alabama kind of still does, but still,
yeah.
Either way,
it's Tuscaloosa North, but that's fine.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that being 10-2, they're going to be in Charlotte. I have a different team. I think that's going to be there in Charlotte with them, but we'll have to wait till later for that one.
Wait till later. Ralph teasing the next episode, and it's a good reason for you to subscribe to the channel, set up notifications so that you know when we release and drop the newest episodes. Reminder, we're going to be walking through a lot of the best college football teams, the most excited college football teams here in 2024, and then we will be live to start off the month of August as we get ready to talk about our conference title game predictions and who wins those as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're not going to talk Mountain West Conference, but shout out to that audience if they exist. So we appreciate it, and thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Bryce Koon, Ralph Leary, and Will Manis. Once more, I've got Clemson going 9-3. Will and Ralph have them 10-2 apiece. Is that enough to get in the playoff? They'd have to win the ACC title, and probably all of our minds to be able to get there with those losses. So we'll see what happens. Catch us next time here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on.
The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.